Well, we've had another great panel, lots of insights about some of the world's top business schools. And of course, with the Centre Court MBA Festival, we love to capture the alumni voices, the individuals that actually were sitting in those MBA classrooms, or they were doing these fascinating company internships and building skill sets, networks, and giving you a better chance to understand what that experience might be for you. Now, I'm delighted to be joined by Zoe Tate. Hi, Zoe. Um,
Hello.
Zoe is originally Dutch and British and studied, you did your undergrad in Utrecht in a liberal arts and sciences program, and then completed your master's in international development at the University of Manchester, which I know and love. And then since then, you've had this wonderful career, part entrepreneur, you've co-founded ethical fashion companies. There was an education space that brought you to Southeast Asia and of course to Kuala Lumpur. So perhaps it seemed entirely natural for you to then consider this extraordinary pioneer program that MIT Sloan has launched with one of the big development banks in Southeast Asia, the Asia School of Business. So thank you, Zoe, for taking the time to join us at Centre Court. You were already in Asia. What was the appeal of the Asia School of Business?
Yeah, I was already in Asia for almost, I think for about 8 years when I decided to apply for ASB. And I was actually a host company for one of the action learning projects. So my first kind of introduction to ASB was when a group of 4 students came to my startup and advised us on some strategy on how we could help make it grow, right? And so we went to the Asia School of Business a few times for the presentations and everything. And, you know, me and my colleague were just discovering the school and everything about it and finding and speaking to the students. And it was just, it looked amazing, right? It was the inaugural class that we met. And I just thought, this is amazing. This is just, you know, in the city that I'm living in. I want to know more. So as I learned more about it, I thought, okay, I can't let this opportunity go. I want to apply here and go to school here as well.
Well, I guess welcoming those students into your entrepreneurial venture, you got a sense of the quality and the caliber of individuals. I'm sure they give good advice. Um,
Yeah.
there is this growing appetite for business education in Asia, and we see schools in China. Of course, Singapore is a big hub, but this is a very exciting project that involves both MIT Sloan and one of the big banks in the region. How does that then affect the personality and the structure of the MBA program?
Yeah. It's a young school, right? So I think it's still also kind of like developing its personality. And I think, you know, the opportunity there is to kind of still have a voice in helping shape the personality of the school. So you have the American perspective, you have the Asian perspective, you have entrepreneurial, you have regulatory, right? And then you have a whole bunch of students who come from very varied backgrounds, Malaysia, in terms of their nationalities, but also in terms of their experience. So it's very dynamic, right? And you're constantly negotiating what you learn, where you go, how you approach problems. Even the curriculum sometimes is still being shaped in conversation with all the stakeholders. So you know, that's a very dynamic environment, and I think that in a way that's also a good reflection of Asia as a region, right? Yeah.
The idea of those MIT Sloan professors that are obviously coming to the campus, does that give it a very different dynamic? I mean, you've almost got the best of both worlds, this energy of the Asian market
Yeah.
perspectives from one of the world's top business schools.
Yes, that's definitely, I would say, one of the highlights, right? Those professors, they're just amazing. They're super inspiring, and we are so lucky that we can be taught by them. They come for like a week, and they teach their entire curriculum. That's usually a semester-long course in 1 week. Our classes are still small. Like my class was 46 people, 46 students. So you get a very intimate contact with the professor, especially since you are there for 5 days, morning till night, studying their subject and really diving into it. It gives you the global perspective, and most likely you're already anticipating in your mind how you're going to use whatever you're learning in your next action learning project as well, right? So yeah, certainly a privilege.
So that action learning and this sort of experiential approach to the program, you, I think, did an internship with the Asian Development Bank. And of course, coming out of the project, you're now a digital innovations specialist with the UN and the Capital Development Fund. How does that help to take all of that theory, those professors coming over from Cambridge, Massachusetts, intensive weeks, long days, 5 days a week, to then be able to apply that learning into a real life situation?
Yeah, so for me in particular, I think, I already had a background in international development and in entrepreneurship, but it was still, I would say, small scale entrepreneurship, right? It's very kind of SME, social enterprise. So when you learn from the MIT professors and you get that global perspective, that of course is very excellent if you want to work on a regional level, or if you want to solve problems from industries and at skills that I had never experienced before through my own previous career path, right? So I had the smaller picture, and then they gave me the bigger picture, and then going into development organizations, I feel like I can now kind of relate to problems on different scales and in different contexts.
Right. So there's the intensity, this wonderful international classroom. It's opened up doors at the UN in a field that you're really passionate about. As you look back on your experience at ASB, what do you think that you've learned about yourself beyond all of those business skills? How does it hold up a mirror to you?
Yeah, it's quite a confrontational program, I think, because of the intensity, right? You are in a pressure cooker, and you are in very close proximity of your 46 classmates all the time, right? Be it in the classroom, be it traveling, or just also socially, right? So it's very full on, right? You don't have much time for other things. So I think both through the official curriculum, which includes a lot of the reflections on how to be a good leader. That is, of course, an important part, but also just through all of these interactions that you have in this very diverse environment. I think it's good because you also learn, and you learn to identify what is your skill and what can you bring to the table, which is maybe something that if you're not in such a diverse environment, you wouldn't necessarily be able to identify your niche that well, right? But when you're constantly being thrown around, you sort of have to ground yourself and be like, okay, this is me, this is what I'm good at. And at the same time, you have to be mindful of maybe where others come in and where you can learn from others and how you can work with them and leverage that international team and that diversity to kind of build up a great team, do great projects, and learn from each other as well. So yeah, that's, I think one of the things I learned from myself is to have the confidence in my strengths, to be aware of how I can learn from others and leverage others. And also I would say the global perspectives that have come in through the MBA, it is to be a little bit ambitious in your purpose, right? To dare to be ambitious in your purpose.
Right. That sense of daring, of course, when we started the program, none of us could have expected what the MBA class of 2020 would face in terms of the job market, global pandemic, conditions unlike any others that we could have imagined. How do you think, beyond obviously the concrete opportunities that it's presented with the Capital Development Fund at the UN, but how do you think that the MBA then helps for those next career steps?
Yeah, the MBA itself was full of uncertainty, in a sense, being a young business school, but also being thrown into such diverse industries and problems and teams. So I think, you learn resilience, and you learn to kind of roll with the punches, improvise, and find a way to create an impact at any skill, regardless of your job title or your role, right? So I think that myself, but also my other classmates, all of us have become way more resourceful in making the best out of opportunities. That's definitely something that Asia School of Business has taught us as well, right? So I think, you know, irregardless of where people have ended up, whether that is straight with their dream job or whether due to the pandemic things went a little bit different than planned, I would expect everybody to have that resilience, right, and that inventiveness of making the most of any situation.
And is your sense that Southeast Asia will bounce back? You know, lots of exciting opportunities in the years ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think such a dynamic region with, I would say, resilient economic growth generally and a huge youth population as well. So many things to do, right? And also more investors being interested in the region. I have no doubt that Southeast Asia is going to recover from this. There will be a temporary dip, obviously. I think that's probably unavoidable. But you know, also the dynamism of the region. I think that people will find the opportunity in the crisis and leverage that relatively quickly. So I don't think that there's going to be long-lasting consequences for the economies.
Right. Now you've described this pioneer, this new program that's sort of building its personality, clearly building an increasingly strong network, and it's going to become more and more selective to get into the school. So as you think about, you know, when you were applying a couple of years ago to the program, what advice would you share? And even, you know, just that sense of enjoying applying. You've been working for 6-7 years, stepping back, thinking about, well, where does business school fit? So what advice would you give to our viewers in terms of embracing this opportunity of applying to a top school?
Yeah, well, so you know, the slogan of ASB is extraordinary and unconventional, and they aim to offer a transformative experience. And I think if you have to ask yourself if you're ready for that and if you truly want that, right? So I think it's important to go in really with an open mind and with a very genuine attitude. Maybe some people have a career switch in mind that they want to make already. And I'm not sure if then ASB would be the best choice because you already know what you want. I think it's better to go in and to be kind of ready to be surprised and to have that very open attitude because you cannot predict the experiences that you're going to have, the things you're going to learn and discover, right? So I think if you're planning to apply to ASB, like go in with that attitude of being willing to learn and unlearn as well, right? And discover new things. And yeah, be ready to be surprised and be authentic about that, I think. Yeah.
Right, right. Well, I would advise anybody to, whether it's changing lives and changing the world or, you know, educating leaders that will have impact, business schools for the world, or those 3 words that describe ASB, extraordinary and unconventional. You know, do read those mission statements if you're applying to these schools. They're there for a reason, how they capture that personality. Thank you for capturing your experience, extraordinary as it was. And we wish you great continued success in your role with the UN. Thank you for joining us at Centrecourt, Zoe.
Thank you.